Hi guys, I'm coming to you today with a Nostradamus reading about the eclipses. But before I get started, I'd like to make a few announcements. I don't know what I was thinking announcing that I'm going paid September 8th because there's an eclipse, a full moon eclipse. So I've been so busy doing my own astrology with clients that didn't pay attention really to what was going on, even though I did some eclipse readings for them. So I'm not going to go paid around September 8th. So just bear with me. I'm going to change that. I might not go paid until actually January of next year. We'll see, because there's some things happening around this eclipse that kind of worry me, particularly. So that's that. I am also working on the the September readings, but they will be late. So just know that I'm not going paid on the 8th of September. I will update you on moving it out, my launch, moving it out till January 2026, and that the September readings are going to be late, okay? Now, we got that out of the way. But what I mean by, I pulled some cards on for Nostradamus asking what's the energy behind the two eclipses, one on September 7th, 2025 at 29 Pisces, and the other one, 21 September of 2022 in Virgo. I don't remember the exact the one on September 5th September 7th is a total lunar eclipse at 15 Pisces, and the one on the 21st of September is a solar partial at 29 Virgo. Okay? And I've been looking at the I was doing it for everybody but myself. It's like the cobbler's kids have no shoes. So I'm looking at these eclipses here across the United States chart. I think there's definitely going to be something going on with real estate or the country across this full moon eclipse. We have Mars transiting the 10th house. So I don't know what this is going to be, but Mars is actually the most negative planet in a day chart. I'm using Hellenistic astrology. Okay? It's a whole separate technique. It has its own separate techniques about what to look for. We also have transiting Jupiter in the 8th house. Now, Jupiter rules both Pisces and Sagittarius, but in this case, it's in Cancer. So this could be about, Jupiter could be that corrupted Jupiter, about other people's money. That it can represent somebody who is corrupt and taking people's money from them. I think we have seen that in other things. We also have Pluto in the 2nd house. In other words, the 2nd house is opposite the 8th house. So this is your finances versus the finances that you have in conjunction with somebody else. So let's say you have you receive a payout, annuity, insurance, inheritance. I think there's something up with what's going on, and particularly the 4th house, which has transiting Saturn and Neptune. So I'm thinking that maybe there is some kind of illusionary bubble in the housing market, I think Jerome Powell is going to lower interest rates around September. I just don't have a good feeling about this eclipse economically. And I have Uranus transiting Uranus at 1 degree. I have Neptune at 1 degree. I have Pluto at 1 degree transiting. So there's all these kind of 1 degree factors. And they are all retrograde. They're moving backwards. So this means that at some point, because Pluto takes, I forget how many years to make a whole transit around the zodiac, at some point he may go back into Capricorn. I don't know. He has an erratic kind of elliptical. Uranus in Gemini. I think he could go back. I don't know how far back he's gonna transit, but he could go all the way back. Let me change my no, he moves forward. Let's move forward. Yes, Pluto ingresses back into Capricorn at some point. He stays at 1 degree for quite a while, but I think he ingresses back into Capricorn. Neptune goes back into Cancer, and Uranus goes back into Taurus. So all these things can affect, I think, particularly the markets, like stock markets, the money markets, and it will affect the housing prices some kind of way. I don't know how. I haven't done a lot of research on it, but I don't do financial astrology. I just have a feeling. So I asked Nostradamus what was happening behind the 2 eclipses. And the book I use is this book that came with the cards, but I also use another book that Jessica Adams sent me. Which was published back in 1685. It's the definitive book on Nostradamus. And so this guy, Dr. Theophilus de Grenadiers, I think I pronounced that right, has a lot of interpretations. He sat down and he interpreted all the writings of Nostradamus. And that's what I have here. So, the cards I pulled were the 9 of Swords. I don't know if you can see that. The 2 of Suns. The Devil. See, he's chasing a bear with a sword. The 10 of Moons. And the reverse 3 of Suns. It came out reverse. So I want to know what could possibly happen as we are going through these eclipses, because this is eclipse season. And so I pulled the cards 23rd yesterday at 11 a.m. and then I had to sit down and research what they were saying. So the 9 of Swords The quatrain is 181. From the human herd, 9 will be set aside, denied judgment and counsel. That's taken from the book here. So I've broken it down to what the book says, and then I've gone further and broken it down to what Dr. Theophilus said. So the full quatrain is 9 shall be set aside from the human flock, being divided in judgment and counsel. Their fortune shall be to be divided. Kappa, Theta, Lambda, dead, banished, scattered. The annotation that Dr. Theophilus gives is, there's nothing difficult here, but what he means by Kappa, Theta, and Lambda, I don't know, because they're just 3 letters of the Greek alphabet. Now, this first card, the Kappa, Theta, Lambda, came out in a video I did October 16th. You can go over on YouTube, of 2022, where I spoke about the Supreme Court and the rise of white national Christianity. So I'll put the link to the video underneath the post. That's the first thing. The second thing is the 2 of Suns. When the sun takes up the cycle of his missing days, then the summit of my prophecy will be accomplished. Mars has an influence on this card, and as a planet of war, it has negative consequences, which can suggest a quarrelsome, angry individual who tries to clash with those in authority. It may be someone in a great position of power who has reached the pinnacle of his life, but still finds no satisfaction. I think we know somebody like that a little bit. There's a reference here. Alexander the Great was said to have wept because after conquering the known world, there was no place else to go. So he did everything. He was reached the pinnacle, and then there was nothing left for him to do. The full interpretation of the card is 20 years of the reign of the moon being past, 7,000 years another shall hold his monarchy. When the sun shall reaffirm his past days, then is fulfilled and ended my prophecy. So the annotation says it signifies no more, but that the author's Nostradamus' prophecies extend to the end of the world. The third card, the devil. The quatrain is 224. Out of the book, it says, hungry wild beasts will cross rivers. The most part of the field will be against Hitler. It's a prophetic reference to the rise in power of Adolf Hitler. And you have to understand how that happened. The key words to the card are self-aggrandizing, power out of control, passion, lust, malevolence, self-destruction, subservience, violence, unprincipled behavior, and psychosis. The full interpretation says, wild beasts for hunger shall swim over rivers. Most part of the field shall be near Isser. Into an iron cage he shall cause a great one to be drawn. When the child of German shall observe nothing. And the annotation says, Isser is a river. German is a proper name of some considerable person whose son shall not observe or take notice when that eminent person mentioned here shall be drawn into an iron cage. Ten of Moons is quatrain 391. The tree which has so long been dried up, dead, in one night shall become verdant again. Similar to the energy of the tarot card, the suggestion is that this apparently solid and four-cornered structure, four-squared edifice, can be brought down. But if you notice, the doors and windows are blocked, which can imply that the outer shore of strength may hide a darker reality, that this could be a prison. Full interpretation says, the tree that has long been dead and withered, and one night shall grow green again. His king shall be sick. His prince shall have his foot tied. Being feared by his enemies, he shall make his sails to rebound. So I want you to listen carefully to the annotation of this card. These two verses are metaphorical and are to be understood of a considerable person who has been for a long time despised and under a cloud. He shall suddenly rise again and be in repute. The last two verses are intelligible enough. I don't know what he means by that. His king shall be sick. His prince shall have his foot tied. Being feared by his enemies, he shall make... I know what it's about. I had to read it again. And so the last card is the Three of Sons reverse. Quatrain 428. Reverse, the card means feeling disempowered, and a project that you have could be a hard struggle or may not come to fruition at all. The key words are hidden motives, distrust, treachery, hope, struggle, and deceit. So the card says, when Venus is covered by the sun, then beneath its splendor it will be hidden. The full interpretation says, when Venus shall be covered by the sun, under the splendor of it shall be in an occult form. Mercury in the fire shall discover them, and a warlike rumor shall be provoked. Warlike rumor shall be provoked. Annotation. If this book, he means his book, ever comes into the hands of Hermes' disciples, I shall desire that they consider this stanza diligently, and the three following, for they are concerning the elixir of the philosophers, or the making of the philosopher's stone. To begin with, when Venus shall be covered by the sun. This is an actual point. So it doesn't tell us when or where. We can watch the skies all we want, but we don't know when this is going to be. It's an actual point. So much sought after by the philosophers for beginning their work, without the knowledge of which they cannot begin their work or come to any good. B. Under the splendor of it shall be in occult form. That is, under the conjunction lies a great mystery. Venus conjunct the sun. I know. Mercury in the fire shall discover them. Namely, the mercury of the philosophers made by celestial fire. And that line struck me as kind of odd. Lastly, and a warlike rumor shall be provoked. That is, the planet Mercury shall be provoked to mix his variable and changing dispositions with theirs by his aspects, oppositions, conjunction. He finishes by saying it's not possible to speak more plainly than that. So what I'm thinking is, I think there is more going on than we know, obviously, with the government, this administration. I think that, I forgot to tell you that this card, the Nine of Stars, also indicates Mars and Gemini, which means war, fair, or a war with a close friend. So we have two cards that speak of Mars, and one card that represents the sun, actually represents the sun. So what I think is happening is we can trace it back to the SCOTUS and the rise of Christian nationalism. That's what I was trying to say. White Christian nationalism. And it's continued there at a very fast pace. That's why you're seeing ICE out taking people off the street, stopping American citizens at the airport, trying to confiscate their phones. You're seeing you're seeing the police in Washington, D.C., and he's threatened to take it to more cities, the National Guard. I think he is setting himself up for a full-time coup, because the first one on January 6th did not go well. Now he's learned from his mistakes. He has taken over the Supreme Court. He's taken over both houses of Congress. He's taken over federal courts. He's taken over a bunch of social programs. Medicaid is being cut. Medicare. Young kids with disability are not going to be able to go to high school and get a diploma. They're being taken out of schools right now in Texas. Section 8 is going bye-bye. Homelessness is now a crime. Speaking out against Israel is now a crime. He's put a lot of things in place that we should see the pattern of what's happening. And I think between these two eclipses, he's going to do more. I think he's going to announce something that possibly should shock us, but it won't. Okay? I'm looking at the Mercury in the 10th house. Let me go back. Yes, I'm looking at Mercury in the 10th house. I also think he just announced, I think it was $10 billion worth of intel. And why I say the Jupiter in the 8th house is a corrupt Jupiter, because his family has made over $3 or $4 billion since he just took office. It hasn't been that long. It's only been a few months since he accepted into the role of presidency. Okay? So I'm looking for some kind of disruption in the housing market or the stock market or trading market, definitely with the dollar. And you have to realize that everybody is under an immense amount of strain financially. If you're not, you're gonna be before he's done. Now, this card reference to Hitler, you can see parallels to what happened in 1939, 1940. It's easy to see. But his father was German. Okay? His mother was Scottish and his father was German. So we hear German is a proper name of some considerable person whose son shall not observe or take notice when the eminent person mentioned here shall be drawn into an iron cage. Now, I don't know if it's talking about old man Trump or young man Trump, Donald, his namesake. Because old man Trump went to jail for participating in Ku Klux Klan, KKK demonstration back in the days, and he didn't go to jail for discriminating against people, but he went to jail for the KKK demonstration. So I think there is a connection there. I'm not sure. It says that the sun shall not observe or take notice when the eminent person mentioned here shall be drawn into an iron cage. I don't know if it's young Donald, if it means that he may be eventually going to jail. I think it really has to do with this card. This is the Ten of Moons. An iron cage can be like a prison, and he can set things up to protect himself. So in essence, he's not protecting the people. He's not protecting himself from the people. He's locking himself inside. The only card that I don't have is the Spheres, which talks about the material world. Here in this card, we see Mars and Gemini. I don't know if you can see it, but you see Mars. I don't know if you can see it. Let me turn the light on. This damn light. Can you see the Mars right there, symbol Mars, and the Gemini twins? I don't think you can. These cards are difficult to see. But there is Mars and Gemini here. Natally, the United States has Mars and Gemini. And the transit of Uranus and Gemini is not accompanied by Mars this time. It was accompanied by Mars in the 30s and 40s. And we know before that we had the stock market crashes. This looks like it's talking about war, a threat of war. But I don't get the feeling that we will actually come to war. I don't. But the rumor is there to make us think that way or make us feel that way. The word minerales, here stands out to me. You can't see it, but there's a hierarchy underneath this dome. The word minerales speaks out to me. We know there is a lot of talk about rare earth minerals. And to me, these three stars represent some kind of conjunction. It's not the sun and Mercury. I mean the sun and Venus. It's some kind of conjunction. So maybe it's the conjunction of the whole 10th house and the whole 4th house is being opposed by this lunar total eclipse, full moon total eclipse. They're opposing each other. So that to me speaks to, I think, some kind of disruption. And then we have this weird trine of Pluto in the 3rd house to Uranus in the 7th house, 7, and the 11th house, which has Saturn in it, which could be suppressing your groups or friends and neighbors, but also it spells like a stick-to-itiveness, because Saturn develops over a long time. But I think that people are waking up to what he's doing, but still he's not going to change. Okay? I was trying to see, I've been running his chart against the eclipses and trying to see if there is any indication of an illness for him. But the first eclipse happens across his 3rd house, his 2nd house, and his his 8th house is affecting him in the same way. And the solar total eclipse is actually doing the same thing, but it's a new moon. I don't see anything affecting his 6th house or his 8th house or his 12th house. And those are the houses in Hellenistic astrology that you look to for any signs of illnesses or complications. I think, in fact, his chart looks kind of good during these eclipses. I keep saying it's like he's protected by Satan from up on high. Nothing seems to touch this guy. Nothing. And nothing seems to affect him. Although we know that we can look at his kinkles and tell something is wrong with him. So I don't do medical astrology, but I don't see anything that may take him out of the game temporarily. Maybe we'll have to look further down the line. And this card. An actual point, so much sought after by the philosophers for the beginning of their work, without the knowledge of which they cannot begin their work or come to any good. Mercury in the fire shall discover them. Namely, the mercury of the philosophers made by celestial fire. It sounds to me like a mixing of some kind of chemicals. Okay? Which creates this celestial fire. That's why I'm thinking that the rumor of war is going to become more of a steady drumbeat. And due to Mercury's changeable dispositions, whether by conjunctions, oppositions, whatever aspects he has, it's going to create this environment for war talk. I just don't know which country he's going to go to war with. It could be a war here on the States. I mean, in the states, between states. But it's definitely speaking of a warlike environment. And this will give him leave to institute more, take away more rights and rules and safety net. He's going to do under the guise of national security. I think this card, a tree that has long been dead and withered, in one night shall grow green again. His king shall be sick. Well, Donald Trump thinks he's a king. I don't know if it's referring to him. His prince shall have his foot tied, meaning probably J.D. Vance can't move or do something. I think this is talking about the past and the present at the same time, or the past and the future. Being feared by his enemies, he shall make his sails to rebound. I think that was in the past because he came back on a rebound. But the line before that, his king shall be sick and his prince shall have his foot tied. It's speaking about the future. Okay? You know, Nostradamus doesn't put things in a chronological order. You have to kind of pick your way through what he's saying. I think this is the most interesting card of it all. And particularly because it references the Tower card. That the building is solid. I keep saying that I keep having a feeling that the people are going to march on the White House and burn it to the ground. A long time ago, I did a reading. It was back in, I think, 2017 or 2018, during his first administration. And this card came out, and I said, this card represents his Trump Tower, his business burning up, his business collapsing. You know, that nothing can say the same every time. And this model of capitalism is imploding. It really is. It can't sustain itself. What it means, it says feeling disempowered, and that a new struggle, a new project, or a long-held dream in motion may seem too much struggle. I think he is facing resistance, more so than we hear about, more so than we know. But people are afraid of him. You know, I kind of get that there's some kind of talk about getting him under control, or maybe removing him from office. It just kind of feels that way, that people are saying even his Republican Party, he's gone too far, even though they voted for him. So I have a feeling that there's some kind of rumbling that's going to happen. If we look at the 10th house, it represents governments and government leadership. So you're talking about presidents, heads of state, versus the 4th house, which can represent country, homeland, not just houses, where you live, where you come from. So we have this big opposition falling across, this eclipse falling across these two houses. And I'm sorry, the full moon lunar eclipse falls across his Donald Trump's chart, falls across his 11th house of friends, networks, groups of people. I mean, it falls across his third house. I'm looking at the wrong thing. The second house and the eighth house. But he has this weird kind of trines across his 11th house. And his third house, which is in reality the Gemini house. Friends, neighbors, siblings, communication, commerce. And Mars is there by transit. I don't know what this is, and I'm kind of new at astrology interpretation. I've been lurking around astrology since I was 12, but I'm just now making a few interpretations. And this doesn't, to me, it doesn't look good. I don't know what's coming. I do think it's some kind of announcement or project that he's trying to do. Besides Project 2025, besides Project Esther, I think it's something else he's trying to do. It will definitely involve controlling the mass public more. I think it will involve a whole lot of AI and technology. But I'm really worried about the eclipses falling across the United States, 10th house and 4th house. So the full moon eclipse falls across the 10th house of the United States Sibley chart, and the 4th house. There's an opposition there. And the new moon eclipse on the 21st of September falls across the same houses. But it's a new moon, a new moon, a new moon. And that is a time that typically people want to start something new. He has an uncanny ability of knowing when something will be, I guess, timing. He has an uncanny ability. Me and Jessica Adams were saying that, we think he has an astrologer, but Jessica pointed out what his astrologer was really crappy because it didn't predict the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. It kind of like he's kind of in tune to whatever he uses his intuition. Let me put it that way. So again, it's this opposition with the 10th house of the U.S. chart and the 4th house of the U.S. chart. And on the new moon eclipse, we have the new moon conjunct the sun over the MC of the represent the leadership, and conjunct Neptune. So it tells me that Neptune gives me pause, because I think, for one thing, Neptune brings a lot of fog, confusion. And I don't know if the Neptune being in the U.S. Sibley chart refers to him having delusions of grandeur, thinking that he's untouchable. There's some kind of weird kind of nebulousness about what's going on. I think that's a word. And I think maybe the nebulousness in turn will affect his thinking. Yeah, I think on the, particularly the September 21st, he's going to make some weird kind of announcement. Mercury is in the house. That's Mercury's house. I'm looking at his chart, and the full moon eclipse on September 7th across his second house and eighth house. So I don't know if it's going to be lit up by the sun. The sun opposes the moon. The sun opposes the moon. The sun in the second opposes the moon in the eighth. So that's like being pulled in two separate directions. His money versus other people's money, or your money versus other people's money. The same two houses. You know, and Saturn like delays or denies or slows down or blocks. And it's transiting his eighth house, Saturn is. But I think Mars is the most problematic planet because he has a day chart in the eighth house. It doesn't always have to be that way. But we have on the September 21st, Mars is at 29 degrees Libra. It could spell trouble. Could spell trouble about something. Maybe some kind of legal issue in Libra. And we have Saturn in Pisces. I want to look at something. In the eighth house, other people's resources may be cut off from you and be unavailable when you think you need them. I think that has something to do with banking. A concrete example would be not getting a bank loan because you have not met the bank's criteria. The eighth house is also a major house of transformation in life, including death. But death is not a guarantee on the eighth house transit of Saturn. And Saturn in Cancer, I don't know if it tells me this. I don't think this book tells me. Let me go find my book. The book doesn't tell me either. This book, not the right book. So, it says that Mercury in the third house, a transit makes an orator, but it's conjunct Neptune, native Neptune, his natal Neptune, Mercury. So I think it's gonna, you're gonna hear more weird stuff that he's talking about. I think so. It's gonna kind of amp up. He really does think he's the king, but he has this Mars trenching his third house. So, conjunct the trenching MC. So that could mean trouble brewing or whispers about him. But it's so weird because it's making two trines to the other house of the other, which is Saturn rule, Aquarius in the chart, and Virgo, the Venus. So I don't know what this is going to be. I just have a feeling that it's not going to be good. We will have to wait and see. So I hope you found that interesting. You can ask me questions in the chat or underneath the post. Please ask me questions if you have any questions at all or comments. And I'm now going to go back and get to work on the September videos. So I hope you found this informative or helpful or interesting, because I haven't done one in a long time. But there are definite connections back to 2022. I can even say, if Jerome Powell cuts the interest rates, we may be looking at a sort of a housing crisis. I don't know what this is. I think everybody's money is going to be affected, though. I think so. Some kind of way. If it hasn't already. And the government is going to have some kind of say in it. And he's the government, What he says goes. Again, I think it's going to be a big shock. But not a big shock. Okay, that's what I have. Talk to you later. Bye.